thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
I'm sure it's a rather busy week.
Yeah, you can hear my voice croaking up after.
Yeah, but you're hanging in there.
Yeah, it's really busy, but it's these nine days. You just got to get the most out of it. So
Amazing.
I'm on.
We're very happy to have you.
Thanks.
So you will focus more on the World Design Embassies and also the What If Lab, but also the embassies in the coming years. I'm guessing they're quite close to your heart.
They are, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Could you tell me what, for you, let's say, the defining characteristic is of the World Design Embassies?
Well, first of all, also shout out to the team, Marianne leading our embassies and our labs, and Dries heading our labs. And they've been building up a lot of experience on how to work together, how to build these experimental environments, actually, because I think that's what they are. About 5 years ago, we were at the moment where we saw, Design Week and showing and connecting and accelerating all these designers is really important, but we also missed something, and that is, if you really want to make change on these more difficult and systemic and tough subjects like the future of healthcare, the future of water, the future of food, and so on and so forth. We noticed that we needed to do more, and we needed to do it long term. So that's when we started building design embassies, and they're a smart coalition of the willing, coalition of purpose, from policymakers to companies, from scientists of all different sorts, to designers, to the audience, to the users. And we noticed that we needed them to work together for a longer term. So one of the things I would like to ask Anja as well from the previous presentation is, one of the drivers that we saw as successful is also a longer term commitment from all these parties, also from designers. So I've seen designers, doing all sorts of things, and then all of a sudden becoming, for example, the designers around circular building, or I am only going to focus on the future of water. And by that, they became so much more influential in this whole process.
Because they specialized.
They specialized.
And that makes their impact a lot bigger.
Yeah, because before we started to organize the coalitions, we saw designers getting involved into a topic. For example, we worked together with provinces, together with the national government, and then designers came in, and it was more sort of, you do your thing, and designers also came in to do their thing, and then they left again. Yeah. And we saw that these were really nice, very powerful instances, but that's not really what gets the system to change.
No. So it's important for all of the partners to sort of be there for the long term.
Definitely.
Yeah, and especially designers as well. So what would your question be to Anja? Because you started
the importance of this longer term commitment.
And that could also be one of the principles. Maybe the sixth, you were adding a principle.
I was hoping for a sixth.
Right, okay. We can try and see
I've not done the regression analysis, so it's not from a scientific point of view.
But maybe that's a new angle for...
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Okay, good. So, I think the aim really is to also really influence social issues and issues in society, inclusivity, water, circularity, all of these. Yeah. What do you think is the importance of experimentation where that?
Well, we all see that we're stuck. I mean, all the old systems built on old principles, built on old policies, very often old technologies, they're so dominant and we're so stuck. Yeah. And in me is always the phrase, if old answers don't work anymore, start asking new questions. And experimentations are actually exploring new questions and new roads ahead. So I think it's vital, it's really important. But what I also feel is we need to build the structures for those experiments to really start making an impact, in the system. So that's why I like these longer-term commitments for the embassies, for example, where there are also market parties involved and there are policymakers involved, and you can really start, clawing your way into the whole chain that you need, from production to users. And this whole chain needs to be involved in the end if we really want to make a change. And I think it's really time, so I'm really happy with the programs that are coming from the national government also, and on a European level, that we finally I see chances to really scale this up to impact.
Because you need to go from experiment to systemic change. In the end, really, is what the road is.
Yeah, but this whole road to systemic change is one big experiment.
Yeah.
But the difficulty in that is that a lot of the influential elements within this system are based on keeping things the way they are.
The status quo.
On defense mechanisms, whether that's market mechanisms or policy mechanisms, they're very often built on not allowing change because it needs to be safe, it needs to be accountable.
And you want to stay in power, those that have it.
Yeah. So I am very, in a sense, optimistic that we see in the embassies that there are, for example, policy makers that are really starting to build their own experimental space within their organizations. We need to start experimenting, and we need a little bit of air to breathe within regulations, for example.
Can you give me an example of some of the change that you've seen through the embassies already? Because, of course, they've been running for a while.
Yeah, they've been running for a while. One of the nice ones, for example, is around bio-based building. I can give two examples. One was we built a very big installation with a lot of parties to show that we can really start building in wood instead of concrete and steel. If you're talking about carbon dioxide, carbon and steel concrete and steel are a very big polluter, and wood can really store carbon dioxide. And we started building that, working together with VPRO Tegenlicht, and they made Houtbouwers, an episode which was the best viewed one ever, best discussed one ever. And it also led to questions in Parliament. How can we accelerate this? And what we saw was really a chain reaction upon that, on trying to make a building with wood much more possible, which also needs new regulations and new accreditations and those sorts of things. And the one from last year I really liked was also the one around bio-based materials. And if you want to build in bio-based materials, you would also need to, if you're going into the chain, you would need to do something in your landscape, for example, and maybe offer new possibilities to farmers. So even entering their domain, instead of growing for food, start growing for the buildings that we need. We need to build 1 million houses over the next 10 to 20 years. Yeah. What if we do them with bio-based and wood? But that would have massive impact on the landscape.
It does, and then you also get into the discussion of how we do need to also grow food for people, and there's a lot of shortage in the world in terms of health and, of course, hunger. So that's always, I think, then a discussion in society you then also need to start having.
Definitely.
So do you work on sort of changing the minds of people in society as well?
Yeah, give you another example. For example, from the Embassy of Safety, where we work together with the National Police and the Ministry, and but where we also work together with the police officers and their role in society on all different sorts of levels, and the way they are looked upon within society, and for example, how you can involve society in their matters. Let me give you one example that was really impressive to me, that's shown in the Embassy of Safety at this moment. It's also an experiment, and it's still building, and that's the project coming from one of our labs. It's This Is Not a Drill. And this is about, for example, online safety. And there was a lot of discussion about drill rap. And is drill rap leading to excessive violence and stabbing incidents? But the police, for example, is policing the physical world, but not so much the online world. And what is going on in the online world? And this is an experiment, and it's a program. How can we train also police officers to understand what's going on online, to see when is this going to escalate into real life violence? And for example, Greenberry did this experiment with the police together. And for example, what was noticed is that we don't understand the online social debate at all. So for example, if there's a picture online shared with a snake on it, I don't know if you know what it means, but most people don't. but it means that you're identified as a snitch.
As a snitch, yeah.
As a snitch to the police. And there was a picture shared of a very young boy with this snake, and he was stabbed to death very shortly after. So this is not a drill, this is a matter of life and death.
This is real, yeah.
And for example, drill rep wasn't so much the how do you call it, the cause for this violence, but it were other sorts of social mechanisms online. And if we start to understand them much better, then we could really prevent these sorts. So we talked to Greenberry, Alain Dujardin, a lot about it, and he said this was, for me as a designer in the online, this was the most heavy, I don't know, emotional, intense, because this was a matter of life and death. Yeah. And with real life impact.
Yeah, thank you so much. In one sentence, with not many commas, preferably.
Yeah, I know, if you drop in a quarter,
but I love that, but you know, we'd also like to give the floor to the audience. In your dream world, if you could think of anything's possible, what for you would be the future of the embassies?
Well, without commas. What we really see is that these collaborations are really starting to grow. But I see so many opportunities, so I would have them even more open, more layered, so local, regional, national and European. There's a lot of possibilities, and I really think we need to stack them up, because then all the investments are, you know, double, tripled in possibilities. And I would really like to build a layer of learning, more learning, scientific knowledge and sharing. So learning community is, I think, really a very important word in this. How can we build a learning community to share the knowledge and skill from that? So
that's what you're going to be doing in the next few years, I'm sure.
Definitely, yeah.
Amazing. I can imagine there's a few questions, so wave at me and I'll invite you to come up to the microphone. It's difficult to see. Oh, I've asked what everyone wants to know. That's always a good sign. That's always a good sign. Go on. I'll have a few more questions, of course, if there's... This is your chance, no? So when you're working on these learning communities, it's also always quite important to make sure that they are stored and accessible in a way, because you can learn lots of different things through experiments, but where does all of that knowledge go? Is that also something that you're working on?
Yes, we are at this moment working on starting what we call a D-Center, also with the university and in a European network. And I really think we need, let's say, laboratories, maybe more indeed in a regional or local level, experimenting, extracting the knowledge, starting to share with each other in a smart way, but also share on a European level. So for example, if you talk about neighborhoods or poverty or something like that, it would be really interesting to understand what experiments are going on in a city like Paris. So if we can learn from Paris and then translate that to what it could mean in our context and all the way back, I think that would be the next step when I'm talking also about stacking this to this European level.
Yes, because there's so much out there, and indeed also internationally so much to learn from. If we don't pull it together, then you keep inventing the wheel a little bit and not using all of the experiments very wisely, I'd say.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really happy and also a little bit proud, but it's a shared pride, you know. There's so many people working on this, that we've had so many international visitors as well, from Sweden, the Danish Design Center who was here, from the UK, people who are also working on these experiments and on these learning communities. And if we can start connecting them, and I know it's being done already, but you know, on a bigger scale, I think we could really make steps.
You are doing that.
Yeah, but these social issues, but also this green transition that we need to go to, they're universal, and I think especially on the scale of Europe, we have a lot of chances to learn from each other.
So all the best of luck with making that happen.
Thank you.
Martijn, Paulen. Thank you.